If you wake in the morning and feel no pull toward the day, if your body stays heavy against the bed, not because you are tired, but because something unnamed has settled over you, this is what Jung would have asked you to consider. It is not a failure of discipline, not a flaw in your character, not evidence that you are weak. It may be the psyche speaking in its oldest dialect, a language that existed long before motivation, goals, or productivity. You may have learned to accuse yourself, to call it laziness, to push harder and feel worse when nothing moves. Others may have told you that rest is indulgence and stillness is surrender. But Jung saw something else entirely. He believed that what looks like inertia is often the soul's refusal to cooperate with a life that no longer fits. A quiet resistance, a signal rising from below consciousness, asking for attention. In the moments ahead, you are not being asked to fix this feeling or escape it. You are being invited to enter it, to understand why the psyche sometimes pulls the brakes, what this pause is meant to convey, and how listening to it can become the beginning of real change. Because what you've been calling laziness may not be decline at all. It may be a threshold, a sealed chamber where something new is forming. If you have ever felt ashamed of being unproductive, if you have carried guilt for lacking energy for the things you believe you should want, this is where the meaning begins to shift. Jung warned that modern culture is intoxicated by motion. We praise activity, celebrate endurance, and quietly condemn rest as failure. To stop is seen as weakness, to pause as falling behind, to be still as something vaguely dangerous. Yet the psyche does not obey cultural ideals. It follows its own rhythms. Jung observed that when the soul withdraws energy, it is rarely doing so to sabotage you. More often, it is protecting itself. He described these periods as psychic incubation, a time when the unconscious pulls inward, working beneath awareness, reorganizing what the conscious mind cannot yet understand. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. From the inside, everything is changing. The conscious mind hates this phase because it cannot measure it. There are no milestones, no visible rewards, no proof that progress is being made. Yet beneath awareness, the psyche is active, sorting, dissolving, rearranging. Jung likened it to a living system in winter when growth retreats from the surface and moves underground. What appears dormant is not dead. Roots are spreading in darkness. The self is preparing new structures. Your body often senses this before your thoughts do. That heaviness you feel is not random. It is intuition in physical form, a signal saying the old orientation no longer works. The inner world is asking for time, not effort. It is asking you to wait because moving forward with the wrong map would cause more damage than standing still. When the body refuses to cooperate, Jung did not see defiance as a problem. He saw honesty. The psyche, he believed, will stop supplying energy to a life built on adaptation rather than truth. What we label laziness is often the moment the inner world says no more performing, no more sustaining roles that drain meaning. This withdrawal is not passive, it is selective. Energy is not gone, it is being redirected away from what is false. The exhaustion is the boundary. The soul conserving itself, refusing to fuel a direction that no longer leads anywhere real. Jung noticed that this sacred stillness does not wear a single face. It arrives in different forms, each carrying a distinct message, though all are mistaken for the same flaw. The first appears as misalignment. You lose energy for things that once mattered. The routines, conversations, and obligations feel hollow, and effort produces no reward. This happens when outer life drifts too far from inner truth. The psyche quietly pulls its investment, not to punish you, but to prevent further betrayal of the self. The second form emerges as unacknowledged grief. Fatigue that does not belong to the present moment, but to something that ended and was never properly mourned. Loss consumes psychic energy when it is ignored. The body slows you down, so the soul can finally bear witness to what was taken. The third form is born from emotional saturation. Some people take in too much other people's moods, the constant noise of events, the unfiltered weight of the world. Jung understood that the psyche has limits, and when those limits are crossed, exhaustion becomes a protective response. Stillness turns into a kind of inner cleansing, a way for the nervous system to restore balance and discharge what does not belong to it. The fourth appears during transition, when an old identity has loosened its grip, but a new one has not yet taken shape. This is the in-between state, unstable and vulnerable. Energy drops because the psyche is shedding a skin. It retreats not out of fear, but necessity, because transformation requires shelter before it can be completed. The fifth form shows up when creative energy has nowhere to go, when the impulse to imagine, build, or express is pressed into a life that feels too narrow, too rigid, too afraid to change. Jung believed that unused creative force does not disappear. It turns inward. It settles into the body as heaviness, apathy, or quiet despair. What feels like a lack of motivation is often energy demanding a different purpose. In every one of these states, the body is not malfunctioning. It is translating messages from the unconscious. The weight you feel is not a sentence. It is an invitation. And beneath all of it, there is a single question forming, patient and insistent, asking what part of you is ready to come into being. During these pauses, nothing inside you is idle. The unconscious does not stop working simply because the surface goes quiet. It speaks in images, sensations, fragments of feeling, reshaping you from within while you are not looking. Pressure builds in the dark the way land forms beneath the earth's crust, slowly, invisibly, until something new has the structure to exist. This kind of change cannot happen in noise. It requires withdrawal. It requires time. The modern mind resists this because it cannot control it. It wants output, not incubation. But Jung insisted that the psyche is not a machine. It is an ecosystem, governed by cycles of growth, decay, and renewal. What feels like stagnation is often the necessary still point between those phases. When you fight this stillness, when you shame yourself for resting or try to drown the quiet with constant distraction, you are working against your own inner intelligence. Jung encouraged turning toward the silence instead of fleeing it, not to analyze it away, but to listen. He called this active imagination, a way of entering dialogue with what lies beneath conscious thought. It does not require ritual or expertise, only presence. When the heaviness returns, let yourself write without restraint, or sit without agenda, allowing whatever wants to surface to do so. The unconscious speaks indirectly, through patterns, images, and feelings that repeat. These are not random. They are signals pointing toward meaning before meaning has words. Jung suggested beginning with questions rather than answers. Not questions meant to solve the problem, but ones that open space around it. What am I protecting myself from? What in my life has outlived its truth? What version of me is waiting to emerge? The responses rarely arrive as clear thoughts. They come as sensations in the body, as sudden images, as a quiet sense of recognition that feels more certain than logic. This is the language of the self, the deeper organizing center of the psyche. And here lies the paradox. At times, the most decisive act is restraint, choosing not to push, not to perform, allowing stillness to be an intentional position rather than a failure. This kind of stillness is not apathy, it is refusal, a deliberate turning away from a rhythm that no longer honors what is alive in you. Jung saw it as a quiet form of rebellion, choosing to be rather than to constantly prove. To rest consciously is not to abandon life, but to enter it at a deeper level. When you stop forcing motion, you begin to feel the underlying pulse that has been drowned out by urgency. The psyche follows laws older than ambition. It moves in tides, not straight lines. And when you allow yourself to pause without self-betrayal, you are no longer escaping existence. You are aligning with it. Jung often returned to the language of alchemy to describe this process. Before any transformation, the material had to remain sealed in darkness, held in the vessel long enough for the old form to break down. This stage was called the blackening, the moment when structure dissolves and certainty disappears. The psyche follows the same pattern. What feels like confusion, fatigue, or loss of direction is often the necessary undoing that makes renewal possible. Nothing new can emerge until what no longer fits has been reduced to its raw elements. The waiting is not delay, it is preparation. When this period ends, it does not announce itself with force. There is no dramatic surge, no command to move. Instead, energy returns quietly. Curiosity stirs without effort. Dreams grow vivid again. Attention begins to turn outward, not because you pushed it there, but because something inside has finished reorganizing. Jung believed this was how the unconscious signals completion. Movement resumes naturally, like breath after a pause. You are not becoming someone else. You are becoming aligned. The world may look the same, but it feels different, because you are meeting it from a truer center. Modern culture struggles to recognize this rhythm. It glorifies constant output and treats rest as something to be earned. Yet nearly every profound transformation has been preceded by withdrawal. Insight forms in quiet spaces, not crowded ones. Jung knew this from history and from his own life. Retreat is not disappearance. It is gestation. Stepping back allows the psyche to listen to itself without interference. Stillness is not the opposite of progress. It is the condition that makes meaningful progress possible. To pause in a world that demands acceleration is not weakness, it is courage. So when that heaviness returns, do not treat it as an enemy. Do not rush to label it or override it. See it for what it may be. The psyche protecting you from a life that has drifted too far from what is real. Jung believed the soul does not stop you without reason. It slows you so something essential can be heard. What feels like withdrawal is often guidance. What feels like laziness is often wisdom moving at a deeper pace. Rest, then, is not indulgence. It is devotion, a willingness to trust that something within you knows when to stop, when to wait, and when the next true movement will rise on its own. In the end, the revelation is simple, though it cuts against everything you've been taught. The urge to lie still is not the problem. It may be the answer, a signal that your inner life is recalibrating, that an old script is being dismantled so a truer one can take its place. When that weight settles in again, do not curse it. Thank it. Your soul is not asking for escape. It is asking for honesty, for silence deep enough that truth can surface, for the courage to live in alignment rather than expectation. And sometimes, to hear that truth clearly, every outer voice must go quiet, including your own. Rest. Listen, something new is taking shape in the dark, and when it is ready, you will move without force, as naturally as morning light breaking through the trees.